Hey everybody, this is Dream, and today we have a 9-game college basketball slate for you. Before I get started, can you guys smash that like and subscribe button? It really does help the channel a lot. I really do appreciate it. We've been absolutely killing it in basketball, in college basketball so far this week. We also have been doing pretty good in the bets, so I didn't do quite as good on bets yesterday, but overall we're doing pretty good. So let's go and get into this slate here. We have some fun games in this one. This slate is a little bit more annoying than some of the past slates, though, as it seems like a lot of the teams are a little bit deeper in their bench on this particular slate, and there's a few blowouts, but a lot of these games are relatively tight. So let's go ahead and get into the slate. So we do have a little bit of injury report here. For Houston, Roberts is questionable. For Wake Forest, Monsanto and Marsh are both out. For Arizona State, Miller is out. And for Missouri, Vanover is questionable, and for Minnesota, Payne is also out. So that's what we have for the injury report. So I'm just going to go through each team that I have some plays on and kind of give you those. So we're going to start with Oklahoma State, and I have one guy here that I do like quite a bit here, and that's Small. He's been pretty solid so far this season in his first game. I expect him to continue to be somewhat scoring dependent, but he definitely has some assist and rebounding potential as well. He didn't play in their first game, but he played pretty good in the second one, and he should be the top tier option on Oklahoma State. Looking over at St. Bonaventure, this game is relatively close, so this is going to have some opportunity here. But Pride is their best player, and he looks like he's going to be having some opportunity to have a big game here. Obviously, this is a tougher matchup than he's faced, really, but both of their games have been tight, and this game expects to be tight as well. And he's what he proved to get close to double doubles in both. So if he can get a double double, that would definitely boost him up here. But he'll get plenty of minutes and has nice upside on the slate. Then we're going to look over at at Wright State here. They're facing Indiana, and they have two players that have some upside here. One being Trey Calvin. I really do think he's got some potential here, though he does carry some risk. But in both games that they've lost, he played pretty well. And then I also look at Holden for Wright State, who's a little bit cheaper here and has been pretty consistent so far this season. He gets enough peripheral stats that gives him some potential. Obviously, if he can get a couple steals, that will boost him as well. But he does seem a little bit underpriced for the matchup, especially with the good, lackluster defense that Indiana has played so far this season. Looking at Texas Southern and Virginia, we're going to have a couple guys from Virginia that we like here. First being Beekman for Virginia. He's played pretty solid so far this season. He's a little bit pricey today, but he's got a great matchup here, and I expect him to play well. His minutes could be a little bit of concern if this game gets out of hand early, which it probably will, but he's definitely capable of scoring plenty of fantasy points before the game gets out of hand anyway. And then we'll look at Dunn for Virginia as well. He's been playing pretty well so far this season in the first 3 games. He's been over 25 fantasy points in all 3, and he's get a favorable matchup here. And his minutes actually should be okay, despite the fact that this might be a blowout as well, as he also has double-double potential. So obviously, if he can get some blocks and steals, that would give him a little bit of a boost as well. Looking over at Utah and Wake Forest game here, we have a couple guys from Utah that we like. One being Wooster. He has been really solid in his first 2 games. His price is still pretty good, so I think he's got some potential here. I really like his peripheral stats and has some potential for a big game. Then we'll also look at Kieda. Now, do keep in mind that he only plays a handful of minutes off the bench, and but he's gotten close to a double double in both games. He had one double double and had a first in the first one, and then almost got it in the second one. I expect him to play about 15 minutes in this one, and if he can get close to a double-double, then he'll definitely pay off here. He's definitely capable in this game. And then if we look at Wake Forest, we're going to look at Mr. Carr. For them, he's been their best player basically so far, and he's playing very well right now. He's had 2 really solid games for them. He does score a lot of points, but he also gets rebounds and blocks, and that gives him some utility in this matchup. Even if the game, which should stay kind of close, even if it gets a little bit out of hand, he should be okay just from a scoring perspective alone. Looking over at the Auburn Notre Dame game, I do expect Auburn to win this game handily, but we do have some players that we like from this game, and one of them being Johnny Brown for Auburn. He's played so far pretty good so far. He's a little bit overpriced, but he's definitely capable of a big game, and he's had double doubles in both starts, and this is probably the easiest matchup he's going to have so far this season, so I like his potential here. And then I also like Booth. Where'd he go? Oh, sorry, Booth for Notre Dame. He has some utility on this slate, though. This is a little bit risky as he is on the long side of things, but he played about 20 minutes in the first two games this season, and he's played really well. He does come off the bench, so to keep that in mind, but he's a very capable player, and he's had some good upside in these first two games, so I look for that to continue here. And both those games from Notre Dame are pretty tough, so I do think that they have some potential. Looking at Arizona State has started the season pretty interesting right now, and so we do have some guys that I like from this game. One being Lands for them. Now he is starting here, but he definitely is a scoring dependent player, so do keep that in mind. But he does have some upside in this matchup, even if it was to get out of hand, which I don't think it will. But he's still playing quite a few minutes and scoring pretty well. He just doesn't get a lot of other peripheral stats, so keep that in mind. He doesn't need to score points really to pay off, but he's definitely capable of that in this matchup. Looking at UML here at UMass Laurel, we have a few guys here that have some upside. One being Max Brooks. He's played inconsistent minutes so far, but one of their games was a blowout. Really, two of their games were blowouts, and so that does limit his minutes more. He won't have that issue today, so I expect him to play a little bit more minutes, and his price is just too cheap for what he's done so far. I do think he has some potential in this one. Colaby is also in play. He's also been kind of inconsistent with the minutes, but he also starts and is probably one of the best players, so I do think he has some potential here, and he's still a little bit cheap as well. And then another guy that I do like is Hikem. Sorry if I'm butchering your name. He has some utility on the slate. He's been really solid in his first three games, even with limited minutes in the first two. He got really good fantasy upside. He's getting some assists and rebounds and steals, which are really helping him as well, and so that gives him some potential. Even in a tougher matchup here, I think that's going to be a game that has some lower scoring than maybe we'd like, but I think that it's going to be a game that you're going to get a couple players from that are going to be worthwhile anyway, and so it's definitely worth a look there. Then we're going to look at Missouri and Minnesota. And for Missouri, we really have one guy that I like quite a bit here, and that's Grill. He's played really solid so far this season. His priced pretty good right here. He doesn't, he does not score as much as he gets more of these other types of like rebounds and assists so far this season. So I do like his potential from that perspective. But he's played pretty well, so he definitely has some potential here. I'm also going to mention that Connor Vanover potentially will play today. If that's the case, then he'll be somebody that I would consider in this one, but you got to make sure he is set to play. Moving into Minnesota here, I also like Garcia for Minnesota. He's played very well so far this season in their first two games. Now, this is going to be their toughest test, but I look for this game to be a back and forth game, and I expect him to score a lot of points. And he's also rebounding the ball well and getting some other peripheral stats so far, so that gives him some upside in this matchup. Looking at the final game in Montana and California, I think we have one guy from California that's a very good play, and that's Jalen Tyson. He's very solid so far this season, and he's got a good matchup here where he should get the lead a little bit earlier, but I expect him to get a double-double in this one, and so he carries a good opportunity here. With that said, guys, thank you for liking, commenting, subscribing. If you have any comments or questions, feel free to leave them below, and have a nice day, guys.